Greetings. This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. Your soul has certain goals and lessons and a certain destiny that it's unfolding through this character that you know of as yourself. There are many different ways that these goals, lessons, and destiny can be fulfilled. In any given moment, there are often several possibilities for what to do or not do that would be fine with your soul. It's important that you realize that there isn't just one path that is right for you. There are many paths to choose from that can take you where your soul wants you to go. However, some paths, ones that are determined by the voice in your head, might not fulfill your soul's goals, lessons, or destiny, although the voice in your head is not always out of alignment with your soul. The soul can usually work with what you choose based on the voice in your head, but sometimes the voice in your head advises you in ways that run counter to your soul's goals, lessons, and destiny, in which case the soul might need to intervene to set you on a more appropriate and fulfilling course. Many opportunities and ideas come to you each day, and you must choose which ones you'll follow. Some of these ideas come to you from the voice in your head or other people's voice in their heads, while other ideas and opportunities come from information you encounter in books, on the internet, or from others. Everyone is bombarded with lots of ideas and opportunities, and therefore many possible paths to choose from. The ones that are in keeping with your soul's goals, lessons, and destiny, however, will stand out from the ones that don't by how they feel. Those ideas or opportunities turn on a light bulb inside of you, so to speak. Something sparks your excitement and piques your interest, and you feel this quite tangibly. It's not that difficult to be aware of when this happens, because the experience is rather striking. But the experience may pass out of your awareness so quickly that it's forgotten and not acted upon. Although life's nudges are pretty obvious, they can be easily overlooked and overruled by other considerations. This is where the egoic mind, the voice in your head, comes in. It's the only thing, this and other people's egoic minds, that can and does overlook and overrule the soul's little nudges, ahas, and light bulb moments. Without the voice in your head and other people's egoic opinions, there would be nothing in the way of following your heart. You would always act in accordance with the heart, with these subtle, intuitive nudges, which is how your soul communicates with you. There are two forces at work in your life: the ego's desires and agenda, and the heart's or the soul's. Sometimes these are not at odds, but more often than not they are. How much easier life would be if this were not the case. But this is how it is on planet Earth. Life is challenging, and it's the ego's voice in your head that makes it so. That is the design, and you have to make the best of it. What empowers you to do so is the simple knowledge that the voice in your head is the ego's, and the ego's voice cannot be trusted. Sometimes this voice is neutral or positive, and therefore benign, which makes you trust it more than you should. But more often than not, the voice in your head pushes you towards superficial goals, ones that you can easily see are egoic: more money, more power, more status, more security, being right, being superior, being the best. You know what I'm talking about. The ego wants these things because it fears life. The ego fears being in the world without having or being these things. It believes that these things are the secret to a happy life, when the truth is the ego itself is what makes life more difficult than it needs to be. such as the ego's limited knowledge and understanding of life. The ego may know how to get money and power and the other things it wants, but it doesn't know anything about true happiness. So listening solely to the ego will only get you what the ego wants, if it even accomplishes that. Getting what their ego wants is enough for some people. Their souls are still learning the limits of that, which is necessary before a soul is ready to ask more from life than just that, before it's ready to learn the real secret to life. It takes many, many lifetimes before a soul is ready for the truth about life. First, it must get its fill of the ego-driven life and have had enough of what the ego wants to realize that that isn't enough to be happy. You are on a spiritual path, so you're no longer primarily ego-driven. Your soul is ready for a fuller and deeper experience of life, and I'm glad for you, because now it's possible for you to have a truly happier life, one full of real rewards and love. What are real rewards? The reward of falling in love with life, the reward of people who love and respect you, the reward of loving others unconditionally, the reward of feeling grateful for life and all that it brings, even for the difficulties. This is real success and where real happiness comes from. It's a wonderful thing to finally be at peace with life, to love it and to love those who cross your path, to no longer be discontent and always needing something more to be happy. It's a wonderful thing to be able to experience joy from the tiniest pleasures, the sun on your face, the delight of a hummingbird whirring by, the beauty of a colorful flower, the joy of being able to walk and sing and dance and affect life in all sorts of ways, the joy of being alive. In order to arrive at this place of joy and peace with life, you will have to learn to say yes to what life brings you. But you will also have to learn to say no to the things that show up that are not aligned with your soul's goals, lessons, and destiny. Sometimes saying yes to life means saying no, either to someone or to some possibility. If you are aligned with life, it will be obvious what opportunities are for you, for your soul, and which ones are not. However, if you are identified with a voice in your head, it will not be easy to determine this. The voice in your head is very good at talking you into seeing life its way and talking you out of following your heart. And by following your heart, I mean following your intuitive guidance, not your emotions. The best way to get better at following your heart is to meditate daily. The more you meditate, the easier it will become to tell the difference between what your heart wants and what your ego wants. Differentiating this isn't really that difficult, but it will be difficult to stay true to your heart if you're still very identified with the egoic mind, because the egoic mind will use fear to keep you believing that it is correct and your intuitions are not to be trusted, when the exact opposite is true. Without a daily practice of meditation, the default, which is believing the voice in your head, will be difficult to override. Meditation changes your default. It teaches you to see life through the eyes of the divine self rather than through the eyes of the egoic self. The difference between these two ways of seeing and being is essentially this. The egoic mind says no to life, while the divine self says yes to life, yes to what is. What this means is that when you're identified with the egoic mind, you feel dissatisfied, unhappy, or angry with life, because you perceive that it's not going the way you want it to go. Even when life is going quite well, the ego isn't satisfied. That's because it says, "No, not this. I want that instead." Or, "I want more of this." It rejects what is for more or better or something different. The problem is that more or better or something different is not part of reality, and so you suffer over what you don't have rather than enjoying what you do have. The Divine Self, on the other hand, is content with life. It loves life, existence, and welcomes what life brings, even if that isn't pleasant from the standpoint of the egoic mind. The Divine Self is content with life and able to love life because it accepts life. This doesn't mean that the Divine Self is passive in the face of life. It doesn't accept abuse, for instance. It only accepts the fact that abuse is happening if it is, and then moves away from it. The Divine Self moves you to do what you need to do to manage life well, but it accepts that in that moment, life is the way it is. To be aligned with your Divine Self, you don't have to like what is. You only have to accept that it is the way it is. Unlike the ego, the Divine Self brings no evaluation to what is, which is why it doesn't suffer. It just does what needs to be done, without the opinion, "I like" or "I don't like." Those two phrases are the road to suffering. Once you identify with a stance of liking or not liking something, you will suffer. If not immediately, then later on, when what you like disappears and is replaced with something you don't like. Saying yes to life doesn't mean you say yes to everything that comes your way. It means that you accept that it has come your way, and then you decide what you'll do about it. For instance, if someone asks you to do something, and doing that doesn't ring true for you, then you accept that that request has come out of the flow, and you also accept that a no from you is coming out of the flow, without feeling guilty or confused about that. The ego often has a problem saying no to people's requests because it wants the support of others, or it believes it should say yes. But sometimes saying no is the right response because it allows you to put your time and energy into something else that would be more fitting and fulfilling. Saying yes to life means saying yes to the opportunities to serve and give in ways that are joyful, meaningful, and fulfilling to one's soul. And you will have to say no to things that aren't, or you won't have the energy or time for things that are. Spiritual people have often confused kindness with being a doormat for others. You can be kind and say no. You can say no kindly, and you can be kind to yourself by saying yes only to those things that fit for you, which will be things that bring you joy. I'm not saying you should only go to the dentist or take care of other responsibilities when you feel joyful about doing those things. No one loves going to the dentist or taking care of certain things that need to be done. Saying yes to these things is a matter of simply doing them when they need to be done, without a lot of argument, complaints, or a sense of victimization, which make life so much more difficult and unpleasant than it needs to be. Your Divine Self just does the things that need to be done without the mind's negative commentary. And when you do that, you discover that there is joy in doing even these things. The Divine Self loves it all. Perhaps the idea of loving it all is too difficult for the ego to accept. It can't understand how the Divine Self could love it all. Let us say that the Divine Self accepts whatever is, And that acceptance is a loving embrace of life, a willingness to have whatever experience life deems necessary. It is always possible to find the place within you that is accepting whatever's happening here and now. It isn't necessary that you accept everything throughout time or everything that could ever or has ever happened. All that's being asked of you is that you accept that this moment is showing up now exactly as it's showing up. For what would be the good of not accepting that? It's a fool's errand to not accept what is. It only makes you unhappy. So, dear ones, accept what is, and then choose from that place of acceptance what you will do with that. You are co-creators of each moment with your choices. So choose wisely, and do not let the voice in your head make your choices for you. Thank you for being here. I am with you always.